In the mid-hours of October 4th, 2025, an unthinkable tragedy shattered a family's world when a husband would kill his wife just moments after a gender reveal party. What started as just another Saturday, a day like any other, quickly spiraled into a nightmare when a 33-year-old mother, excited to welcome her sixth child, was found lifeless in her home with multiple gunshot wounds. Just moments prior, she and her husband had celebrated their gender reveal by throwing a party, but what no one knew was the sinister plan her husband had for her after the party. What seemed like the start of a new chapter in her life turned into a horrific nightmare. The person responsible for ending her life? It wasn't a stranger. It was someone who should have been the protector of her children and her future, the father of her unborn baby. The painful truth behind her murder would shake the community to its core. This is the life and death of Bolivia Monique Williams.
Yes. Woo, yes, child. You got
fire starting in my heart, reaching up the picture, bringing me out the dark. Finally, I can see you crystal clear. Go ahead and tell the mountain I'm your ship.
33-year-old Bolivia Monique Williams was born on March 10, 1991, in Columbus County, North Carolina, before later settling in Regalwood. The daughter of Peggy Blanks and Michael Williams, she was known to her family, friends, and community as a bright, vibrant spirit. Bolivia was not only a mother, but a dedicated businesswoman, an energetic soul who lit up every room she entered, and a force of positivity to everyone who crossed her path. Her love for dancing, her infectious laugh, and her undeniable energy made her a cherished individual. Bolivia loved sharing her life through social media, offering a glimpse into her joyous world where she connected with everyone, spreading love and kindness. Bolivia wasn't just a mom. She was an entrepreneur. She had big dreams and worked hard to make them a reality, embodying the spirit of resilience. She had 5 children at the time of her death, ranging from a 16-year-old to an 11-month-old toddler, and they were the heartbeat of her existence. Despite the challenges of being a single mother, Bolivia never once let her children feel less than adored. She was actively involved in their school events, took pride in nurturing their individual personalities, and made every moment count. Her bond with her mother, Peggy, was unbreakable. Peggy wasn't just a mother, she was Bolivia's rock, always there to support her daughter and grandchildren. Whether it was preparing home-cooked meals or stepping in to help with bedtime routines, Peggy was the constant in Bolivia's life. It was clear, Bolivia wasn't just a devoted mother. She was also the embodiment of unconditional love and support. A woman whose life was built on nurturing others, especially her kids. Despite everything, Bolivia's life wasn't without its struggles. In 2018, her relationship with her partner began to fall apart. Though the couple shared 2 beautiful children together, their bond weakened. Eventually, they went their separate ways, but Bolivia's identity remained anchored in her role as a mother. That was until she would cross paths with a man who would bring her so much tragedy. In early 2023, Bolivia met Naji Devin Leach, a man who seemed to offer the support and stability she needed. At first, Naji seemed to be a dream come true, a supportive partner who helped with household responsibilities and embraced Bolivia's family as his own. Despite the ups and downs, the relationship appeared stable enough, and Bolivia found herself pregnant with Naji's child. It was a bittersweet moment for her as she added another child to her already full house, but soon it was a new blessing everyone was looking forward to. As Bolivia's pregnancy entered the 2nd trimester, she began preparing for the arrival of their baby. She cleared a corner of their small dining area and transformed it into a cozy, makeshift nursery. From the outside, it appeared that Bolivia and Naji shared a practical partnership. He provided the support she needed, and in return, she gave him the stability of a family. But beneath this surface, Bolivia wasn't prepared for the emotional roller coaster that was about to unfold. Naji's involvement in Bolivia's life quickly became inconsistent. There were weeks when he was fully present, helping around the house, checking in often, and playing the part of the supportive partner. But then there were weeks when he vanished without any explanation, leaving Bolivia to handle everything on her own. Bolivia, always deeply invested in her relationships, gave it her all. She adjusted to Naji's needs and did everything she could to make the relationship work. On the other hand, Naji kept a noticeable emotional distance. Friends started noticing the changes in Bolivia, how she altered her appearance to match his tastes, rearranged her schedule to be more available to him, and even pulled back from her closest friendships. It was clear she was trying everything she could to make things work. Little did she know, the true nature of Naji's control was far deeper than she could see. The relationship increasingly operated on his terms. Bolivia would often adjust her behavior to avoid conflict and keep the support he provided for her and her family. He became intensely jealous over her interactions with other men, even questioning her conversations with their children's teachers. Naji would frequently check her phone and question her whereabouts, and if he felt slighted, he'd emotionally shut down, punishing her until she apologized, even for things that weren't her fault. But the toll of his actions was limited to just Bolivia. His interactions with her children exposed even more concerning patterns. Naji played favorites, treating each child differently and setting different expectations for each, which created tension in the home. If he was upset with Bolivia, he would withhold affection from the children as well, making them feel the weight of his moods. The control over finances also crept in gradually. Naji initially took over paying the bills, but soon used that financial support as leverage during arguments, manipulating situations to keep Bolivia reliant on him. As a result, Bolivia's isolation deepened. She began to skip family events if Naji couldn't attend, distancing herself from the very support system she needed most. On May 24, 2024, Bolivia and Naji hosted a gender reveal party in their backyard. It was a small gathering with close friends and family, and when blue confetti poppers burst into the air, the cake with "It's a Boy" written in blue icing confirmed that they were expecting a son. Bolivia looked radiant in the photos, her hand resting protectively on her belly. She had already chosen the name Isaiah James. Yet despite the smiles, attendees couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Naji's expression was telling. He smiled, but his smile never quite reached his eyes. He stood slightly apart as family and friends embraced Bolivia. Guests noticed his distant demeanor, his minimal interaction, and how often he glanced at his phone. Bolivia chalked it up to nerves about fatherhood. But for Naji, the celebration represented a turning point, one where the reality of the pregnancy became undeniable and the permanence of fatherhood began to sink in. But this was only the beginning of Naji's unexpected outburst. After the celebration, Bolivia began discussing more practical matters, putting Naji's name on the birth certificate and talking about potential child support arrangements. However, these conversations didn't sit well with Naji, who seemed to prefer keeping the relationship casual and undefined. This conflict would soon spiral into something far more complicated. Little did Bolivia know, the man who had stepped into her life as a helper would soon betray her in the most devastating way. It was June 4th, 2024, a seemingly ordinary day in the life of Bolivia Monique. She had already dropped her children off at school, attended her 10 a.m. prenatal appointment where she received good news about her baby's health, and even went grocery shopping. As Bolivia prepared dinner in the evening, there was no sign that anything was amiss. Her mother Peggy had taken the younger children for the evening, leaving Bolivia with just her older kids at home. But the evening took a tragic turn when Naji, the man Bolivia trusted, arrived at her home. At around 8:33 p.m., police received a 911 call from a frantic neighbor saying they'd just heard multiple gunshots from the next door. Just as police were trying to make their way to the apartment, they would receive another frantic call. This time, it was from Bolivia's 12-year-old son. He explained that someone had shot his mom and she was bleeding a lot. The dispatcher stayed on the line with the terrified child, calmly guiding him to apply pressure to his mother's wounds. Meanwhile, police and paramedics rushed to the scene, but it was too late. Despite the paramedics' best efforts, Bolivia, who had suffered multiple gunshot wounds to her chest and abdomen, could not be saved. Neighbors later reported hearing raised voices from within the house just before multiple gunshots rang out. They also reported seeing Naji leave the house shortly afterward, acting strangely and quickly driving off in Bolivia's stolen car. Investigators later found 5 9mm shell casings at the scene, indicating the use of a handgun. The murder of Bolivia Monique Williams left the community in shock and disbelief. Her vibrant personality, unshakable commitment to her children, and the love she shared with her family made her death all the more tragic. But as investigators dug deeper, they uncovered a chilling series of details that pointed directly to one person: Naji Devon Leach. After the 911 calls were made, the authorities immediately began piecing together the timeline of events. The discovery of Bolivia's body, surrounded by her 2 children, just 10 and 12 years old, who had done everything in their power to help their mother, was just the beginning of the horror that investigators would soon uncover. Bolivia had been shot multiple times, including one shot to the abdomen, which tragically took the life of her unborn son, a child she had already named Isaiah James. Despite the frantic efforts of paramedics to save her and her baby, she was pronounced dead at 9:38 p.m., only hours after a seemingly normal family evening. As investigators processed the crime scene, they made several key discoveries: the blood-soaked carpet in the living room, the scattered family photos, and the broken picture frame featuring a photo from Bolivia's recent gender reveal, all painted a gruesome picture of the attack. What was clear was that Bolivia knew her attacker. There were no signs of forced entry into the house. It was a tragedy, but also a betrayal. A crucial piece of evidence came from Bolivia's children. After being interviewed by child specialists, they described an argument that had occurred just before the shooting. Her mother had been speaking with Naji on the phone throughout the afternoon, and the conversation had grown increasingly tense. By the time he arrived at the house, the emotional weight of their strained relationship was apparent. But it wasn't just words that set off the tragedy. Naji's actions leading up to the shooting would soon reveal a man consumed by jealousy, control, and possessiveness. Once the police had gathered the details from the crime scene, they immediately began looking for Naji. His movements, however, were not easy to track. Investigators discovered that shortly after the shooting, Naji had fled the scene in Bolivia's Subaru Forester, leaving behind a trail of digital breadcrumbs that would ultimately lead to his downfall. As they reviewed surveillance footage from the surrounding areas, investigators found Naji had taken a careful and calculated approach to his escape. Rather than fleeing along major highways, he chose back roads to avoid detection. Cameras caught him running a red light minutes after the shooting, and gas station footage showed him purchasing a prepaid phone, energy drinks, and water, all while keeping a cautious eye on his surroundings. The authorities didn't stop there. They were relentless in their search. With the help of cell tower data, they tracked Naji's whereabouts, but his erratic decisions raised questions. He seemed to be intentionally throwing off law enforcement. His change in direction, from heading south to suddenly turning back towards Wilmington, was puzzling. But as they tracked his movements, it became increasingly clear that he was making calculated efforts to stay one step ahead. But a breakthrough would come. A convenience store clerk in Brunswick County recognized Naji despite his new appearance. He had cut off his signature dreadlocks and changed his clothes to avoid detection, but his efforts were in vain. The clerk, after seeing news reports about Bolivia's murder, contacted the authorities, providing vital information that allowed investigators to narrow in on his location. At 1:17 a.m. on June 5th, approximately 5 hours after the murder, Naji made his only public statement through a cryptic Facebook post. His message read, "This post became a key piece of evidence, shedding light on his state of mind.
It suggested that Naji felt betrayed, believing Bolivia had wronged him despite his feelings for her. The post quickly garnered responses from friends who were unaware of the tragedy that had unfolded. Some expressed concern, others confusion, with a few simply asking if Naji was okay. He didn't respond to any comments, but investigators later confirmed that he had viewed the replies. His account remained active for several hours after the post. As dawn broke, the search for Naji expanded, with multiple law enforcement agencies now involved. The Bladen County Sheriff's Office, the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation, and neighboring law enforcement departments joined the search. A command center was set up at the Bladen County Justice Complex to manage the influx of information. Highway patrol officers established rolling checkpoints on key roads leaving the area. Investigators began reaching out to Naji's family, but none admitted to knowing his whereabouts. However, some provided helpful information about possible hiding spots or individuals Naji might contact. His bank accounts were flagged for suspicious activity, but it quickly became apparent that he was using cash exclusively. The media broadcast his description repeatedly, emphasizing his changed appearance without dreadlocks. The public responded swiftly, flooding hotlines with over 40 reported sightings. Naji had reached out to an ex-coworker earlier that day, asking for a place to stay under the pretense of relationship issues. The coworker grew suspicious after hearing about the murder and immediately contacted the authorities. This, combined with other information from Naji's movements, gave the authorities a picture of where he may be. Then, the most crucial lead that would finally bring the manhunt to an end. At 11:23 a.m., Naji attempted to withdraw money from an ATM, a decision that would ultimately lead to his capture. The location of the ATM transaction pinpointed his whereabouts, and officers swiftly moved in on a Wilmington motel where Naji had checked in under his cousin's name. At 3:15 p.m., tactical officers apprehended Naji as he returned to the motel. He surrendered without incident, appearing visibly worn down and defeated. Naji's arrest marked a pivotal moment in the case, but it was only the beginning of a long legal journey. As investigators pieced together his actions in the days leading up to the murder, they discovered evidence that suggested premeditation. Naji had spent weeks planning his escape, researching how to disappear and avoid capture. He had also made efforts to sever ties with people who could potentially help investigators locate him. In addition to the murder charges, Naji faced a range of other serious allegations. These included the murder of an unborn child, felony discharge of a weapon into occupied property, robbery with a dangerous weapon, and motor vehicle theft. Prosecutors made it clear that they would pursue every charge to the fullest extent of the law, citing Naji's deliberate actions to avoid capture as evidence of his guilt. The legal proceedings were further complicated by the potential for capital punishment. Given the nature of the crime and the fact that Bolivia was pregnant at the time of her death, prosecutors would be seeking the death penalty in this case. As the legal process was arranged, Bolivia's family and community continued to mourn her loss. Her mother, Peggy Blanks, took on the responsibility of raising Bolivia's 5 children, moving them into her small 2-bedroom home. The emotional strain was palpable, but Peggy's love for her grandchildren kept her going. She began a search for a larger home to accommodate them all and to provide the stability they desperately needed after such a devastating loss.
Mother talks about the hardest moment of her life, the phone call telling her her pregnant daughter was dead.
Bolivia Williams died after someone shot her a week ago today in Bladen County. Her boyfriend is in jail tonight, charged with her murder and the murder of her unborn child. WECT's Ava Brengord sat down with Williams' mother to talk about her heartbreaking loss. Ava, she says they embraced Bolivia's boyfriend into the family before the shooting happened.
Right, John. Williams' mother, Peggy Blanks, tells me the couple was set to go on a trip the night before the shooting happened. Tonight, she's coping with what she calls unimaginable pain.
It's a pain that I don't wish on anybody.
Peggy Blanks' life changed forever when she got the call that her daughter, Bolivia Williams, was allegedly shot and killed. Even more tragic, she was pregnant with her 6th child.
She was my firstborn, and I didn't imagine having to bury her.
Williams' boyfriend, Naji Devon Leach, is now behind bars, facing a slew of charges, including murder of an unborn child. Blank says she's in shock, angry that her daughter was taken from her, and feels betrayed by Leach.
You was like family. Because she loved you, we loved you.
Williams now lives in Blank's memory instead of by her side.
From morning to night, we on the phone FaceTiming, talking to the babies. And now it's like my phone ringing because of people that are concerned, but I'm still waiting for my daughter to call. She ain't gonna call me no more.
She says what hurts most, thinking about the fear and pain Williams may have gone through.
That's the hard part. Because you don't know if she was crying for help, if she suddenly, I don't know.
As Blanks gets through one day at a time, she continues to face a new battle, forgiveness.
Trying to forgive him, maybe one day. Still don't know if it's gonna happen, but I don't know.
Leach is behind bars at the Bladen County Detention Center. He's being held there without bond. And as for Blanks and the rest of Williams' family, she says they'll continue to grieve as they prepare funeral arrangements and now try to live with their new reality. John.
Such a sad story. Ava, thank you.
The town of Regalwood came together in a show of support for Bolivia's family. More than 300 people attended a candlelight vigil in her honor, and local businesses rallied behind the family, raising over $47,000 in just 2 weeks. Peggy also launched a GoFundMe campaign to ensure the children's future was secure and to cover funeral costs. Despite the sadness, the community support was a reminder that Bolivia's spirit, her love for her children, and the positive impact she had on everyone she encountered would never be forgotten. The weight of Bolivia Monique Williams' tragic death still hung heavy in the air as the trial of Naji Devon Leach would one day begin. The entire town of Regalwood is watching from the sidelines, hoping for justice and a sense of closure for Bolivia and her children. Regardless of the outcome, the Williams family remains focused on the future. Peggy continues to raise her grandchildren with the love and dedication that Bolivia had instilled in her, and the community of Regalwood remains united in its grief and support for Bolivia's children. Bolivia's legacy, marked by her dedication to her children and her unwavering love for her family, will live on in the hearts of those who knew her.
Her death was a tragic loss, but through the fight for justice, her memory will never be forgotten.
What do you think about it? Let us know in the comments below. And if you found this story intriguing, please like, share, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this.